Hi Justin, I decided to try to record my Flipgrid video on this because I couldn't seem to get it to work, and just in case, I decided to do this to be safe. Um, so I decided I wanted to discuss the idea of building relationships because I feel like in every single aspect of what you talked about, relationships was really important. So the idea of working to build a relationship with your students, obviously not being friends with them, but being friendly, because you don't necessarily know what situation your students are in. Um, and it's just really important, especially when addressing behavior. Um, and also, you talked about being process oriented. You want to enjoy the process, and if you don't, probably something needs to change. Because relationships are a process. And I found it really interesting how you explained that you can be goal oriented in the idea that at the end of the year, you want your students to have improved. Um, but if the process of that isn't working, then it's not a relationship. Um, so I also wanted to talk about the hard times video. I sobbed through all of it. It was very sad to see the children who had to discuss being hungry, and I just don't think any child should have to think about hunger, think about where food is going to be coming from. It's impossible to think about anything when you're hungry. I know even just in the few hours when I don't eat, it's really hard to focus on school. Um, so and then how that relates to me, I grew up poor. Um, my parents were divorced. My mom didn't really have a job most of my life because she had really severe mental health problems. She's now working, which is really good. She has that in check. But for most of my childhood, she was on Social Security, and my dad paid child support, and that was all we really had. I was really fortunate that she was a teacher before, and so she did have a lot of the skills to, help me through my schooling, and she cared. She just, everything was about love and caring, so I had that support. So I think that's why I succeeded, but it is really scary to imagine a scenario of my childhood without her and without her support and having the limited resources we did have. I probably would have been one of those children that just fell behind. Um, and I think that we're working towards improving that. I know in my placement, the students get mandatory snack, and I think that's really important because they don't necessarily get snacks, and that, especially for a young developing child, is really, really important. And we have the free and reduced lunches now, but still to then think about going home to poverty and sometimes homelessness is really hard. I know I can't imagine that. So for a young child or even a teenager, um, I can imagine it would just be really difficult to get through your day and get through your studies. Like something as simple as homework does not seem important to someone who doesn't have their basic needs. Yeah, so I guess going back to relationships, making sure that you know what your students are going through so that way you can help them to the best of your abilities and maybe providing some of the things that they're not getting at home as best you can in a way that's professional and um, attainable. All right, well, thanks. Bye.